All right, all right, all right, all right. We are live. This is Beat People Podcast 80. I feel like this show's been going on long enough that we should be at Beat People Podcast 880, but we are at
Yes.
Beat People Podcast 80. We focus on quality, not quantity, apparently. And I'm your host, Bboytech. I got my man Ken Flux. D Steele's not with us today. I know he's traveling and stuff. And we got Upright. And we also have special guest Joel from Chase Bliss. Chase Bliss Audio, as a matter of fact, some of the dopest pedals on the market. And so we're going to get into a couple things. Thanks, y'all, for joining. Thanks for waiting. We're here now. Let's go. Yo,
So can I start this off real quick? I just want to say something, okay? Holy crap, Joel, your the reverb pedal that you guys collabed on is phenomenally regarded as the best reverb you can get right now, hands down.
hands down.
In the guitar market, like everybody's just going bananas over this thing. How do you feel about that? Wow.
Well, with the before we get started here, I just wanted to tell everybody that's watching or listening that I'm a person who stutters. So if you're just listening,
No, for sure.
sometimes it can be kind of confusing. Like, is it breaking up or not? But it's just me stuttering. Anyway,
You know what? You're amongst family and good vibes, and so feel comfortable. And we got you, man. Do your
Thank
thing.
you.
Yeah, you should see some of our private messages between me and Corry.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
well, thanks, guys. With the Automaton line of pedals that we're doing, so this is the second one. The first one was a preamp, a collaboration we did with Benson Amplifiers. My thought with these collaborations is that I want to try to find collaborators that are just like the top of the top, and Mamaris and specifically Angelo, who writes their algorithms. He's just one of the best in the world
Obviously.
at writing reverb algorithms,
Absolutely.
And so I just felt like if we're gonna, we knew the product was going to be expensive, with the faders and all that. We just, the worst possible outcome would be like this, this really fancy piece of hardware with motorized faders and all these bells and whistles, but then the reverb doesn't sound good. That would just be horrible. So it's like it's with this product line in particular, it's like, what is the absolute, what is like the best people we can possibly collaborate with. So I mean, as far as the sound and the algorithm design, you just got to give all of the credit over to Maris.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a dope collab, man. I think it turned out incredibly well. Like, I'm gonna share the image so people know what it looks like. That is not what I was trying to share. So let me not do that. Give me a second. So the idea that the physical makeup of the pedal is something totally different, but then when you so I'm looking at the CXM 1978 and I'm looking at it and I heard a story about, is Brad the owner? Brad, is he the guy at Chase Bliss or no?
Oh, no, I'm the owner.
Oh, sorry, Joel.
It's all good.
Yeah. So,
it's like, it's interesting because we do so many collaborations, and the company is kind of grown pretty rapidly, and I'm kind of like less and less like you know, like the face of the company, which I like a lot.
Right.
It is kind of confusing.
Well, I remember when you were first working on, I believe it's the preamp pedal was the first one with the faders on it.
Yep.
I remember you had shouted out basically on like Instagram or whatever. You were like, "Oh yeah, you know, if anybody can help me get this function working." Like because the fader operation was something new, and really I don't think any other pedals done that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So the story with that's kind of funny. This is just how I am. Like I'm always like upfront and transparent about everything. It's like
Dope, though.
you know, I'm sorry, what?
That's good though. That's
Yeah. It's just that's the only way I know how to do things. But
Absolutely.
hold on one second. My son wants to ask me a question. What's up, buddy? Okay, he says never mind. Okay, so I you know, like I think a lot of people who you know have been in studios recording something, and you know you see the desks, you know, with the faders that move around, you know, the motorized faders, and I always had the thought, I'm like, that would be so cool on a guitar pedal. And that, you know, a year passed, another year passed, and I'm like, I just assumed someone would do it, and then I'm like, well, I'm gonna do this then. And so I started working on it, and I'm an electrical engineer, and I got pretty far, but what happened is there's a lot of variability, you know, with the friction on the sliders. So like I could get a prototype working perfect, and like when I was controlling the motors and writing the code and everything, but as I was trying to build more and I was like, oh man, I'm in over my head. And I tried to like reach out within my network and see like, is anyone like an expert on this? And like couldn't find anybody. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna like just write like an SOS on social media. And I was like, hey, I'm gonna be real with you guys. Like you know, I'm working on this. Like I need some help with the motor control aspect of it, because this stuff is, you know, outside my scope. And I got like 20 emails that like within a couple hours of like capable people. Dope. And there's this one guy that we just totally hit it off. And actually he works for me full time now. He moved from Florida.
Nice.
He moved from Florida to Minneapolis, and he's an amazing engineer. His name's Charlie. And he just, he's really, really smart, and he's a great guy. And he was the guy that made it all happen there. So it's like I started it, and then like I like passed him the baton, and he just took it and ran it across the finish line.
Well,
Nice.
you know, it sounds like you guys got great chemistry, and it's a great team, because this thing works like a dream. It's comprehensive. You know what I mean? It's super cool. Like as I'm using it, just kind of feels it's. You know, I like gear that kind of inspires you, and it's tough to think like sometimes it's something like a pedal would inspire you, but like honestly, I kind of think Chase Bliss has a knack for that.
Thank you. That's like the best compliment I feel like I could get, because that's all I'm trying to do. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was so inspired to make a platform like that is, you know, our other pedals, we have presets and, you know, the digital control and all that, but sometimes it gets I feel a little disconnected sometimes with the presets on the other devices, because I don't remember what the setting is when I saved it. But what I love about the Automatone line is it all comes up. You see, you know, all the arcade buttons have the LEDs. You know exactly what is going on when you recall you know, the preset. And that was just like always a goal of mine, to be able to have a user interface like that.
Yeah, it's very cool.
So cool.
So so I had a question about it. I mean, I like that you're using, so there's like a metal arcade buttons there, and they each have like 3 positions and 3 lights, which makes it like initially when you're looking at it like, okay, so we'll get some reverb. But I mean, you have enough variation on this thing where you have, whether it's a plate room or you know, other types of reverbs, and you got 3 different positions you could toggle through. Then you also have like the fidelity, where it's like high fidelity, standard fidelity, and then like, what is it, lo-fi? But it's really like tell us a little bit about that bit of thought that you all put into that with the arcade buttons. And
totally.
So
the sound itself was inspired by the Lexicon 224, which came out in 1978. And I myself and the guys at Maris just love that sound. We love the records that were made with that. So it's not so much like one of the questions that we get a lot is like, if you put this side by side with an original Lexicon 224, is it going to be able to sound exactly like it? And while I mean, that was the inspiration for the device, we were like equally as inspired with the records that we love that that were used on that. But anyway, to actually answer your question, so like in 1978, technology was a little less advanced than it is now, so we wanted to make like a hi-fi mode that was hi-fi and use the technology that's available for us here. And then we have the standard mode, which is like in the vein of what the original 224 sounded like, and then the lo-fi mode, which is like all bets are off. You get aliasing and like gnarly stuff and all that. So that was really the what we were trying to go for with that particular with the clock control.
I mean, it transforms any, like you could go through, like I said, with the hall and the plate and the different types of reverbs and how you can do the mix between, or the crossfade between bass and treble, and bass and mids. So you get all this characteristic out of the reverb, but then when you start to play with the fidelity, you can turn anything into like really lo-fi or just really hi-fi and like sparkly almost, you know what I mean? So it was really well done in that sense.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what we're trying to go for. It's just not like there's a lot of like awesome pedals out there that have like sorry buddy, what do you want? What? When will I be done? I don't know. I'm having fun with my friends. So
how old is your son? I'm going to say what, six?
Just so you know, I have a 6-year-old here as well.
I knew, I called it.
He comes running into the stream whenever, so don't worry about it.
Oh, good. That's
say hi, Chase?
That's the most. What's his name? Is his name's Chase?
His name's Chase. Yeah.
Is his name? My son's name's Chase. And
really?
When he was 6, yes. When he was 6, that's the most tender age I remember him as, like the 6-year-old Chase. He was so amazing.
Let me tell you, I was just telling somebody this, and Ken could probably relate because he's got a 6-year-old and a 20-year-old. I have a 20-year-old, and
I have a 21-year-old.
Well, you have a 21-year-old.
Well, Chase is now 22. So just for clarification, yeah.
Babies having babies all around.
I was telling her one day, I've always reveled in the fact I used to pick up from daycare, and she would come up and she'd be so happy, and she would point at me and look at her friends like, yeah, he's dope, ain't he? Like that was the way she would be looking, like, ha, he's funny, look at him. And then the other day I was saying something to her, and she just did this. Doing the most for what? And I was like,
and that's my 14-year-old daughter now.
That's ridiculous.
Man, but I specifically remember that 6-year-old age of my son Chase. Man, I remember him at 6. Even now, it's like, man, he was such a little tender little kid. It was so amazing. So
it's funny you say that, because the conversation we've had with our 6-year-old today is, please stop being so violent. So there's that.
So I want to ask Joel. I want to ask you, Joel.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Corey.
So obviously you named your company after your son, Chase.
So actually, without getting into too much detail, not to bring the vibe down, but so my brother was named Chase, and he was killed by a drunk
Oh no.
driver in
Oh,
2007. But I mean, it's really like, and so he was an actor out in Los Angeles, and he was all about this concept and mantra to follow your bliss. And
man.
after he died, like, and I was like, dude, just like totally inspired me and continues to, because I was just one of those people that was like working in like a normal, like a corporate job that I hated, and like really struggling with stuttering, and just it was like on my way to having a shitty, forgettable life. And after he died, I was just like, man, this is like very, like, I'm fucking up, and so when I started the company, I kind of put that concept of his name and then follow your bliss, for Chase Bliss.
Is more
Man.
dope than I ever thought of.
That
like,
is sick.
Thanks.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. That's something that has to be amplified. And then the fact that I don't want to keep saying it because it is genuine though. I mean, the fact that that's the story behind the name, and that you really, I feel like you blaze trails with the pedals. And it inspires people kind of to at the risk of sounding cheesy, to chase bliss in their music. Like, you give these creative tools that kind of, I feel like a lot of your pedals push people in a bit of a different direction with their music. You know what I mean? Kind of experimental and stuff like that. Yeah, go for it, right?
And also just wanted to speak on that vibe, man. That realness to leave corporate America and to be so impacted by the death of your brother, to impact a company that has been so powerful in the industry. I mean, you can't go anywhere without mentioning Chase Bliss. I mean, Rhett Shull. I know you know Rhett Shull, Joel. Rhett Shull, just all these huge YouTubers that use Chase Bliss stuff. I mean, it's you can't go anywhere without hearing Chase Bliss. Like, as far as guitar pedals,
I mean, I'm as surprised as anybody. Like I said, I still can't believe it.
Yeah.
I got a question.
That's what happens.
The actual sound. So
I was just gonna
you
say,
mentioned. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's what happens when you follow your heart and do what's passionate inside of you. I mean, it's amazing, man. So anyway, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I was just wondering a little bit about the specifics, because if we're talking about the sound of Chase Bliss, I actually don't have any Chase Bliss pedals in here, and not for lack of want, just haven't come around to that moment. However, I'm a fan of like following the journey and everything. I've been watching it since honestly a long time now.
Wow, cool.
So like there's been a lot of interesting things that you guys have done, but the blooper I thought was really cool, like the way you guys were attacking like deteriorating sound and that sort of thing. I thought it was just like really interesting stuff. So what I wanted to ask you about is for the CXM 1978, it's a pairing with Maris, right? I want to know a little bit about what that was like, because I know Maris has some really cool reverb pedals as well. What was the kind of interaction back and forth between you two to get to the sound that you wanted?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, it was actually ended up kind of being, I think we all put in more time into it than we thought we were going to. Like at the beginning, it was just like, these guys know how to make amazing reverb algorithms. But this kind of happens to me all the time, so I don't know why I'm surprised by it. But then it's like once we actually like had a prototype, then you know, myself and my team, you know, you start to realize like, oh, you know, we have opinions on how this stuff should sound. So there was probably like it sounded amazing right away. Of course, you know, that's like not surprising. That's why that we wanted to work with each other. But it was probably like 6 months of like, oh, this could probably be better, or like, you know, like the taper on this slider, like all the cool sounds are like way at the top. They're like, you know, let's spread those out so it's like easier to dial in. So just like there was so much work behind the scenes about the user experience, and like a lot of the feedback we've gotten is stuff like, oh, it's really easy to use, you know, like there's there's a wide variety of sounds in it, but I feel connected to it, and I'm able to get the sound I want quickly, and that's what I want. And you and I were kind of talking about that before the show started, Corey, how there's like the balance of having lots of options and you know, having high tweakability and all that, but you want it to feel accessible and not frustrating.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing. I think it's the gift and the curse of today. We have access to the people who make things. You know what I mean? Today we have access, and it goes vice versa, right? It goes back and forth. Like the creators and makers have access directly to their audience as well, their customer as well. So I think what's dope about nowadays is that there are plenty of Facebook groups and forum groups and just interaction on social media where the customer can say, I want this. And a maker like yourself might say, cool, I think that's a good idea. Let's put it in there. But then I think some companies fall down the rabbit hole where it's like, yo, they put everything into the thing. The other thing but the kitchen sink, and it's the user, but then some of them trip up where it makes it complicated and not enjoyable and not accessible. And that's it's like when you can strike a balance, then you're winning. And yeah, like we were talking about before the show, that's kind of, it seems that's kind of the philosophy that you follow. Like, yeah, where's that balance at where we can have this wide palette of sound, but it's still accessible and fun to use.
That's like the mission statement right now.
So
yeah.
So just to kind of piggyback off of 1978 to the preamp, how do those correspond, and why do they look alike? That's a huge question. I've been. Yeah.
I think for me, I'm kind of obsessed with this idea of having a platform to build lots of products off of. And I thought, you know, with the six sliders and, you know, the 5 buttons, I kind of love how sometimes limitations can spark creativity. Cause, you know, with the CXM 1978, it's like, this is what we got, guys. Like, what kind of a product can we make with this platform? And then you have to make some decisions, but that's great. And then you just try to make the thing with the platform that you have. And I love those limitations in that way, because there's still enough on there where you can do really an awful lot, but it's not, it just kind of forces you to keep it accessible. And then I also love how people are just familiar with the platform after time. So it's like, you know, a lot of people have, you know, the preamp and CXM. And, you know, when we come out with a new thing that uses this platform, they'll pretty much understand how to use it right away.
It definitely
gotcha.
is.
Okay.
I mean, having that, I want to get into a couple of your other pedals too, but just another thing to say about how I've been enjoying the 78 right now is, and not to disparage any product or anything, but just my honest opinion about what I have, the Moog 1, which is probably the most glorious birthday present I've ever received.
Here we go.
Yeah, of course.
You sending that over, right, Corey? You sending that over to me real soon?
One, you'll get a copy. But the thing is that it's obviously, you know, one of the. It's obvious. I think it's going to be a modern classic for analog poly, right? It probably already is. But the effects in it, it's all digital effects is by a company. I won't even say the name of the company, but I typically use their effects in their pedals. But in this particular setting, the Moog 1, and in the casing that it's in, I feel like there may be something about gain staging and all that stuff, because the effects just sound really noisy. And it's a common thing. If you go anywhere where people are talking about this particular synth, you'll hear that kind of stuff when people are talking about it. It's not to say that they're all bad, but I find a lot of the algorithms to be very noisy in this context. Same algorithms I can use in the pedal, and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's fine. So I don't know what that is about. So the CXM 1978, I just sit it right next to the thing. It's got the faders. It's easy to just kind of dial in different stuff, and I can easily hit save. I can scroll through, 10 presets?
10 presets, and then 3 banks too, so 30 total.
Okay, so you get 30, and I mean, so that tells you just how wide of a palette it is. But I think it's very hands-on with the sliders. It kind of feels like almost messing with a mixer. It's kind of really accessible. Just the fact, you know, I'm messing with keys. I have knobs here. Then I have these sliders that I can kind of dial in different things. It's made my experience from an effects perspective with the Moog 1 a whole lot better. And I'm directly attributing that to what I've been using with the CXM.
Well, it's interesting because when we decided on the sliders, I mean, I've had the same experience with the sliders. I just like how they feel, but it wasn't my first choice to go with sliders. I wanted to go with a motorized knob. The problem with the vast majority of those is they're so slow. So like it takes like 7 seconds to go from one extreme to the other. And I'm like, that's unacceptable. And then there's other like stepper motors that just feel weird to me, kind of, but they're, you know, so that was another option. And then I just went with the sliders. And it was kind of out of necessity, but I'm finding that a lot of people are giving similar feedback as you are, Corey.
Yeah. It's a good experience.
Real quick, because this is huge. The post you just put up, Grumo. Is there any reason there aren't any Chase Bliss products in the Thomann catalog? Thoman's huge on the opposite side of the pond, right? So I get a lot of like situations like this where like, oh man, I want to order this, but it's not available for me here in the States. So that's a situation, and I'm sure this guy's frustrated by that. But any light you can shed on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of reasons. One is right now, I mean, this is a good thing, I guess, but like our company in 2020 just exploded. Like, so we're so far behind on orders, which is great, but like a ton of people are so frustrated with us, including our dealers.
Gotcha.
So like for us to take on someone like Thomann right now, it would be, we just couldn't, like, we're still feeling
Really?
orders from dealers from like,
Where's the wood boxes?
Oh, yeah.
That is dope. That's so dope. That's so dope.
We'll talk about the wood boxes. Hold on. I don't know how many people are watching that know about the wood boxes, but I need you to kind of tell the story of the wood boxes. Hold on, grab this.
I love that you have one. They're kind of rare now.
Yes.
I think I have one too.
Really? That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
This is
nice.
So
oh
What's
man,
the deal with this? I mean, listen. The pedal is on the pedal board, but I use this for stuff.
I love it.
Hey, I'll tell you, that's boutique at its finest, right
It really
there.
is.
That's boutique.
So yeah, when I started, my son's looking at me again. Come here, come say hi. In 2013, and that was even kind of tough, you know. The landscape for guitar pedal effects was like pretty saturated, or I don't know, I even hate, that's a weird thing to say, but it was like hard to start a guitar pedal company in 2013 because like you had to stand out. So I was thinking like, well, what's one thing I could do? I was like, that'd be cool if it came in like a little wooden box. So I found these recipe boxes, and yeah, that's what they are. They're so like if you have like, you know, those standard size index cards, they'll fit right in there. In case you want another usage for them. But so I started doing that, and then I got this brand. Hey dude, come here.
Don't touch me.
Just come say
Don't
hi.
touch me.
All right. He's
Oh,
got
my boy.
some
There you go.
laundry
Don't
detergent
tell.
there.
That's right. That's product placement.
Yeah.
That's right.
But then I had to get like a custom stamp, or not a stamp. You see, like the top is branded, and my wife started to do all that work. So they're like stained and branded, but then she got pregnant with Chase, and you know, with the fumes and stuff, it was like, you can't be doing that. So then my parents, they're retired, and they're like, well, we'll do it. And you know, no one at that time knew like the company, like there's like, this is just Joel's thing. You know, he'll do this for a while and, you know, have to get a normal job again or something.
They support, but the level of seriousness is like,
Well, I mean, I should, you know, they believed in me for sure, but it just got to the point where it was like both of their like almost full-time jobs, and they're supposed to be retired. And so it was just like, okay. And there was always just a mess too. Cause it's like, we're always running out of them. We could never get enough of them. And like, we, you know, it's always like, we have these pedals to ship, but we don't have the boxes. And like, it was just such a disaster.
Oh,
So
man.
finally we just, you know, we had to make the decision. We're like, we just can't do the wood boxes anymore. And it was a bummer. And even my parents were kind of bummed about it. We did like a little video of it where, you know, they talk about it and stuff. And it's,
I remember that.
yeah, it's pretty sweet. You know, my dad, yeah, it's funny. Cause you know, every once in a while I'll watch that video and I was just like, yeah, my dad's pretty damn cool. You know, it's like, really good dad.
Hey, I got a question for you in regards to basically the usage of your pedals. So, like honestly, I could ask 1,000 different questions, but one of the things about Chase Bliss pedals, especially that I've noticed, is that there's a large adoption rate of non-guitar players. So it being used by, you know, synthesis and, you know, drum machine users and everything else. Do you feel like that was an intentional thing, or, you know, how do you feel like that really came about for the company?
I think it's really parallel to my own interests. And actually it's cool. It's just cool seeing like all of your guys's spaces you're recording in. It's inspiring. One thing I'm really trying to do is get back into spending more time creating, because I think like the last year or two I've kind of gotten just tied up with, you know, trying to run the business and stuff. But I'm a little less interested in guitar these days and more interested and just more interested in, you know, what appears to be the things and, you know, you guys are interested in.
Wow, that's
looking
dope.
at your
That is
studio.
dope.
So I think that I've naturally just, I still love guitar and all that, but I'm a little bit less interested in it on its, like, I don't care. Like, I want to make effects for every sort of input source, including guitar.
Yeah.
Just be careful because Bryce will literally like hunt you down and take all your guitars.
Yeah. So wait, I want to grill Joel here. I want to grill him. So two things. Bliss Factory. Like, so I'm like, okay, Bliss Factory. I get to grab one of these real quick. So excited. So I'm like really looking forward to ordering this pedal, and all of a sudden it's gone. Like, man, what the heck was with the Bliss Factory? What was that? It's like that pedal was like a phenomenon. Like, it exploded. Like, you couldn't get it nowhere. It was just ridiculous.
You're kind of breaking up. Sorry. Until this time, I could pretty much understand what you're saying. I think you asked, what's the deal with Bliss Factory? Now my son's just like trying to annoy me. Dude, what's up? What do you need? I don't know. Go talk. I don't know. I can't be done. I'm like, hey, I haven't been able to talk to another adult for like the last, 2 weeks. So anyway,
so Joel, I don't know
Factory. I'm actually calibrating them right now.
Hear me? Joel, can you hear me at all? Okay. So Bliss Factory. I was so excited. The announcement went out, and I was like, oh man, I get to get a Bliss Factory. I went, and it was like gone. I was like, man, what the heck? And then it exploded on the internet. It's like, what the heck? You can't get a Bliss Factory anywhere. And people are, wanting these ridiculous amounts for the pedal. So, like, in your mind, what was that all about? That was just insane.
Yeah, so I think what you're asking is you were talking about this whole phenomenon that happened when we released this at the beginning. This is the next release of it. So it's got like a new color and stuff. And so it was, oh my gosh. So the story with it was reverb.com. They're coming out with a movie that's been delayed a few times, and now I guess it's coming out in April or something. And to promote it, they wanted to do some limited edition pedals. So they talked to and like this wasn't hard for me because I'm used to doing collaborations, But what was interesting about this one is that it's a collaboration with Zvex, which was the place that I worked at from 2008 to 2013.
Nice.
And then the place that I also left and then started my own guitar pedal company. So the relationship is it's been cool, but it's, I left there and started my own company. So it's like they're,
right.
So I had always dreamed of making this pedal. Like, I have sketches of it in my notebook, but I was like, it's never going to happen because, it's just kind of weird. And, I talked to Zach about the idea, Zach Vex, and he just loved it right away. So it's so funny because it's another example of like how, I don't know, sometimes as humans, we just worry and think that something's not going to work out. And sometimes all you got to do is ask. But it was because of the movie that it all came together. And so I'm thinking, all right, they want to do a limited edition thing. Let's make 1,000 of them. That's a lot of pedals for us. There's some of our older pedals, like that was the entire production run over years. And so that's a lot of pedals for us. Yeah. And they sold 1,000 pedals sold in like less than an hour. And
wow.
Then it was just this thing online where people were like, oh, this is like a marketing stunt and this and that. And I'm like, do you guys understand how hard it is to make 1,000 pedals? It was crazy. So then I had to make a decision because I was getting all these emails and DMs and people like, why don't you make more? And what?
Did you ask them to provide you with free labor?
Or yeah, it was like some people were really mad because it was a limited thing, and then some people were really mad because they bought it because it was a limited thing. And I get all the criticism, like I'm totally sympathetic, but then I just decided, you know what? Because there's some people that like they bought it and just listed it for a ton more, and I was like, we're just gonna make more, and so yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, that was nuts. Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it's weird because it's like on one hand, I love the limited stuff because it allows you to go weirder with things because you don't have to worry about if they're gonna sell. It's like if we make 100 of something, like even if it's the worst effect in the world, like you don't have to worry about. You can take some chances, but if it's like part of your product line, if there's more pressure for the dealers and you want to make something that like they're going to be able to sell. So now it's this weird thing though, where it's like, man, I got so much drama and like anger over this limited thing that I kind of don't want to make limited stuff anymore. Cause it's such I don't know. I'll figure it out, but it was wild.
Well, yeah, just to touch back on the idea of like how you guys are doing your pedals, one of the things that I've followed throughout pretty much every pedal that I watch you, because like you said, you're pretty transparent on a lot of the development.
Yep.
Is there's a lot of discussion, like you said, about ranges and kind of tailoring sweet spots and that sort of thing. Which I love getting into the nitty gritty of that kind of stuff. Like that's like my whole world. One of the things I haven't used the 1978, but one of the things that a friend of mine was kind of describing to me about it was essentially the EQ being tied to other aspects of the reverb, like the time or whatever. Like what selections were you pairing, together on faders that you felt maybe you hadn't seen before but made sense to you? Was there a lot of trial and error? Was it just things that you wanted to do? How did that stuff come about?
Well, the main thing with that section of the pedal is when we first started working on it. So the way that kind of works, and it's interesting because I would expect, like, it's such a cool idea for a feature. I think, I'm super biased, but I'm surprised that other reverb pedals haven't had this functionality. You essentially have the decay control for the mids and the bass, and you set the decay for those frequencies, and then you have a cross fader that determines what is a mid and what's in the bass. So with those three sliders together, you have so much control over the frequencies of the tail of the reverb. And I feel like we really fine-tuned that. And I hope I'm answering your question. I'm not sure if I am. With really the taper, because early on, all the sounds, not all of them, but a lot of the sounds I liked were like really like longer reverb tails, and it was like I was just like really playing around at the top of the range a lot, and it was a little frustrating for me. And so I'm like, all the sounds are in there, they're all in there, but it's too hard in this, top part. So let's spread that part out. But I think it really, this is why I love collaboration, is I think some of the sounds that Angelo liked were, not the super long decay ones. So then we kind of had to like say, well, let's compromise here. We want to make sure all the sounds everybody likes is easy to dial in. And we ultimately, that's what we did. And I think it allows it so most people who try the pedal are able to get to the place that makes them happy relatively quickly.
And does that, like, you know, when you're doing a guitar pedal, right? And like we talked about how, you know, it kind of falls into the hands of like synth nerds and everything else. But the conversations that I've had with other guitar pedal manufacturers is one that tends to borderline on fear of overcomplicating, because a guitar, for the most part, the demographic of guitar users is technologically different from synthesizer users.
Yep.
And you have to keep that kind of thing in mind. So does that play like a heavy hand when you're looking at doing reverbs? And if you're familiar with, like, okay, like, you know, a console reverb, like a Lexicon works this way, but I'm not necessarily expecting the guitar player to be familiar with those sorts of controls. Are you trying to familiarize it in that way to kind of, you know, put it all into sweet spot territory for them?
Yeah, and I think that's an area actually where luckily I'm a good resource for that, because I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination on anything really, but I'm like more of a guitar player than I am, you know, a synth player or anything, but I'm interested in that stuff. So I think I have a pretty good handle on what the market for guitar players can kind of tolerate as far as complexity, but then also still give the people that want more the ability to, you know, to get there, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I mean, it's just it's a fine line that it's like constantly trying to figure out where that line is.
Well, let me ask you just one last question, and then I'll let these guys start, because I'll Bogart.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, I noticed that you have MIDI on your pedals, and that's become something that's been growing in the pedal scene in general. How do you feel about MIDI adoption amongst pedals, and just MIDI in general being utilized in that space?
I mean, I love it. I think one thing that's kind of interesting, and we've experienced this a lot, is we've been the resource for a lot of guitar players to teach them how to use MIDI. And I went through the same thing, where at first it's like, it just seems weird and esoteric and frustrating. And then, you know, once you take the time to learn it, it's like, oh, you know, there's program changes and, you know, CC messages, and that's kind of it, you know.
That's great.
At least for guitar pedals, that's what you need to do to set them up. So then once, and I'm honestly pleasantly surprised how much people are actually into it. And, you know, it's really getting there.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, MIDI's huge for me. My whole pedal board, it's massive. It's huge, and MIDI's it's all throughout my pedal board. So yeah, it's a serious thing for me, at least. Yeah.
When did you start to get into MIDI? Have you always been?
I've been into MIDI since the beginning of like using like an MPC or whatever. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Have you been surprised by how, you know, your average guitar player has kind of become interested in it, or what?
You know,
weird question.
That's a good question, because I think the big guitar players, you know, Rhett Scholes and those kind of guys out there, they are really using MIDI in unique ways. So I think it comes part and parcel for me. It's like, it's been something I've been doing since I've been making beats, and to see them using it like as guitar players, it just seems natural to me. So
I feel like it's an interesting burn. You know, like the curve of MIDI adoption amongst pedals is interesting. And I think the more pedals that have it, the more you'll see guitar players getting familiar with it and using it. I think one of the first pedals that I had that that had MIDI that wasn't a DIN port, because like I've got multi-effects pedals that have had MIDI on them for forever. But when I started seeing MIDI show up on smaller single-use pedals, that's when I was like, oh, that's pretty crazy. Was Alexander, I think I had their I think it was the syntax error that they used the three prong approach on it, on just a standard pedal.
Matthew,
and I was like,
Matthew, the guy that owns that company, is he taught me a lot about how to implement that stuff.
And they make some really cool stuff. And I was kind of taken aback. I was like, oh snap, this thing has MIDI on it. Like, this is my world. Like, so
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So what I was saying though is that it, the more I look at, because I have things like the H9, I just got a Poly Bebo today. Like, I've got other pedals that have MIDI, but most of the ones that have that are multi-effect pedals that I have been seeing. But now you're starting to see it on single-use pedals, and you're starting to see it a lot. A lot of digital single-use pedals are having that, and it's not all just program changes. I mean, you're seeing things like, being able. I've got the Boss DD500, where I can actually map out, like, it's a crazy delay, and I can take like a BeatStep Pro or something and map out all my parameters right on there and kind of go to town on it. So I think you're starting to see, because it's becoming on more gear, I think you're starting to see that adoption. And of course, you get younger generations coming in that are more technologically savvy and who can speak better than me. So, you start to see that sort of thing. But yeah, it is an interesting burn how it's starting to come to fruition in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with MIDI on pedals, it opens it up. You know what I mean? Like, it opens it up. Like you said, you could take those parameters via MIDI and spread them across, some controller, or automate things in your DAW and do all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely.
It's a whole different world. It kind of takes that thing and says, okay, let's virtualize this hardware in a way.
Absolutely. You can automate things in the DAW to your pedal board, and connect with it while you're playing. So it's just amazing. And I feel like the way you guys have implemented the MIDI into the pedals is phenomenal. Yeah, it's great.
And then, like, you got somebody here says that he knows somebody that uses MIDI to essentially make instant pedal board wide preset changes. So you know what I mean? Like, and in Eurorack, there's similar situations, right? You might have somebody using a voltage block or some sort of voltage storage device that, rather than, now it's talking about performing with all of these things, rather than having to tweak all of these parameters, you can actually set everything, save it as a preset, and then bang, hit it in the middle of a performance, and you're where you need to be without any twiddling and fiddling on, or duplicating pedals and duplicating devices and stuff. So yeah, it's pretty dope.
I also just love with the with the Automaton line, and this is like something that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, is just like, if right now we have two different pedals in the line, but just like hook it up to a MIDI controller, hit one button, have the preset change, all the faders move on all the pedals, and it's like, you feel good. Like you can control stuff,
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
That fly around. I made all those
So real quick, we cannot get out of here without talking about mood.
Yes.
Mood.
I love that you love
everywhere. Mood is everywhere. Like, I see people playing harps with mood.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, mood is everywhere. Like, it's on my pedal board. It's on thousands of people.
See, and the thing is like, I feel like mood came so close to blooper. I felt like blooper almost got passed over, because I've been following blooper's progress for a long time.
I got to get you some pedals, Ken.
That's a good point.
I gotta get you.
We'll talk. We'll definitely have to talk. But yeah,
that's a good point. That's a really good point, Ken. But mood is huge.
I feel like was that a parallel development schedule thing? Like, you were kind of, because you were working with what's his name, Knobs,
yeah,
you were working with him on that as well. But was mood being worked on kind of at the same time?
Yeah, you know what? It was so funny how it all worked, because like the blooper thing always felt like such a huge, massive, highly technical project, and we were working on that, and it was a lot of what we're talking about right here, actually, because blooper can be frustrating to work with if you don't know what you're doing, whereas with mood you don't really need to know how it works, and you can have a lot of fun with it. And so we were kind of discovering that, you know, with blooper, we're like, man, a lot of this stuff would be cool if it was a little just easier. You didn't have to know everything, and it was like you didn't have to read the manual, and it was easier, you know, to access. And we were also, so like with blooper, we use this really sophisticated processor, and with mood we're using this processor that is like widely available and everyone uses it, and we were loving using it because of all the different weird ways you can manipulate it that we didn't feel like other people were really exploring, and we were able to get a lot of the fun stuff we were trying to achieve with the high-powered processor easier, and it was more accessible and immediate. And we just, we were worried about it confusing people, and it did confuse people a little bit, but we just felt like we felt like there was enough for two different products there. And I do think like the workflow is way different for them. You know, mood, I feel like I can give mood to anybody, any musician, and like just give it to them and be like, you will enjoy this somehow. You know, I don't care what type of music you like or whatever. Like if you have this in your studio, it will improve your life, I think. I'm by it.
That's what I like to hear.
I don't think of that about all of Chase Bliss pedals for sure, you know.
I've got products that I've worked on that I can tell you for sure they will do the opposite for you.
Hey, you know,
they will make your life a living hell. And yet they won't leave.
So this is coming up a couple times in the chat here, Eurorack. And
I was going to say that too. Yep.
Needs to put mood in Eurorack format, and somebody else asked, hey, are there any things, are you ever thinking about collaborating, doing something in Eurorack format? What's your thoughts on
we actually, I probably shouldn't say this, for a time because of the name, we were like, let's call it Moodule. And like put it in Eurorack, and we started working on it a little bit, but I'll have to look back. I would love to go back and revisit it, but there was a few things that just didn't quite translate, and we didn't want to just, you know, sometimes it's like with the Eurorack stuff, it's like, you know, you'll see a guitar pedal company and they'll put something out in Eurorack and they don't really, and I'm part of this, they don't really know what they're doing because they don't use Eurorack.
Right.
And I'm kind of like that. So I really want to make sure if we do that, that it actually, you know, it's not just
that it works.
Do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Yeah.
I want to make sure it's right.
I feel like mood would be an instant success in Eurorack.
Yeah. Moodule too. It's so cute.
Yeah,
Moodule, yes.
Yeah, but you know,
that would be super cool.
I like, there's just two things here, but I like the way, Ken, you mentioned this, that he was working with, who was it, Knobs?
Yep.
So you were working with Knobs, and I found myself waiting on those freaking videos.
Yeah,
like through the development of Blooper. Like I was like,
and those videos were done in a really cool way too. Like it was a very it was like a cool story type thing to follow. So like that whole thing came out really well.
I'm gonna tell that to Knobs, because towards the end he kind of soured on him a little bit, where he's like, man, these are stupid, these aren't interesting. And I was like, I don't know, man, I think that there's people out there that actually care about.
Well, you have to keep in mind, like, so pretty much all of us have had like social media presences, whatever, for a long time. Like I started my channel back in like 2009, something like that. And I've long since given up on caring like about like, oh, I'm gonna do it like, you know, these short little snippets, this and that. I'll do a 3-hour video talking about like a modulation source on an oscillator.
agree.
Like,
I agree.
I'm just like, you know what? Honestly, music technology is such a small niche thing. It's not like I'm making money from the videos anyway. I'm doing it because there's a few weirdos out there that are going to love this stuff. And that's who I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for the people that are like me, that are sitting in a dark room somewhere, just like, you know, fiending over some weirdness. So
same philosophy. Yeah. And it's like, people are drawn to, you know, you being you. You don't have to try to be anybody else, you know?
And some are pushed away by it.
There was a point with the blooper videos where I don't know, it felt like, oh, this one, I missed one or two, then I catch up, and then one took a little bit longer than usual to come. And then when it came back, the buttons were switched around and there was some functionality change. And I had to actually take stock of the fact that I was sitting there like, you know, like it was the latest evening soap opera. Like I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. That button. I
gotta show this video to Knobs. He's gonna crack up. Yeah, it's like. That was wild too, because it's like Knobs had all these ideas about how things, you know, in his head, everything worked out perfect. But it's like, as soon as you start using the device, you'd know instantly whether something works or not. So you can have this perfect idea in your head, but you get it underfoot. That's what we always talk about. We got to get this underfoot because that as soon as you start using it, you like something that you thought was the best idea in the world. Turns out it's horrible, you know, but you just takes 1 second of using it, but you have to use it to know, you know, and there was a lot of stuff like that with Blooper. And that was wildly different from, you know, the development experience when we were working on Mahmood, because that was the opposite. We started playing with it right away. So it's like, we got it underfoot right away. And then it was like, this works, that doesn't work. Let's really try to double down on the thing that works and just forget about the thing that doesn't work, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's dope. And was it with Blooper that you all started using those little silver arcade buttons? Because I feel like it wasn't there, if I'm not mistaken. And then at some point you had some functionality you want to get to quicker, so you put these arcade buttons on the front end there. And what's cool about that is that they end up showing up on, you know, your new format of effects boxes.
Corey just wants to talk about arcade buttons because he has it on his product.
Well, they have very different arcade buttons too, though. So
they're great. They're great. That one was like, you know, it drove Knobs crazy because he wanted, you know, I was like, it has to fit in our enclosure. I'm like, it has to work in here. I'm like, can you make your idea work in here? And he's like, I don't know, man. And there's a couple times when we were working on it, he's like, I need more switches. It's like, nope, it's got to work in this. And then, we had like all these things about trying to access the modifiers. And I'm like, you know, I'm using these cool arcade buttons for the automaton line I'm working on. Maybe we could just put those on the side to turn on and off the modifiers. And he looked at it and he was like, man, that like solves all our problems. And they had the lights on them too. So that was another thing. We didn't have enough LEDs to like show
what's happening, feedback.
Yeah. You know, the user feedback. So it's kind of crazy that it even exists. And actually we're just about to release some new firmware next week that I think is really, it's stuff that people have been asking for since the beginning. So I think it's really going to make people happy.
Very nice.
It's been one of those things where, like, you know, watching it, I was like, man, that is a lot of functionality to stuff into a single pedal enclosure like that, you know, because that's like the stuff that you were doing on it is stuff that, you know, you're looking at things like, you know, the 505 type things and that sort of stuff where it gets really into some more crazy detail. But yeah, you know, I mentioned it earlier, but the stuff that really got me like, oh, wow, that's amazing was the thought towards like how things would decay out and how things could break up and that sort of thing. I was just like, a lot of the times guitar pedals come from a guitar pedal world with a guitar pedal mindset, and that's fine. Like there's a lot of great things in that world that I love, but there's all these other ideas that are interesting too. Like I've got synthesizers that have DJ effects on them. right? And that's such an alien thing for that, because it's like, who would put DJ effects on a synthesizer? But it makes it really interesting. And it's the same with guitar pedals. When you start putting like beat making ideas into something that's a guitar pedal, you know, instead of, you know, just saying, okay, we just want clean loops, you know, and that sort of thing. Like, you know, it's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, and I think that helps with Knobs too, because he's, you know, he's a guitar player, but he's you know, his studios look like y'all's studios.
Yeah, no doubt. You know what I noticed too is because I run a YouTube channel called ModBap, right? And so I just curate on there. We curate people that are using modular in a hip hop context and beat making and how all that kind of blends. But not long ago, I posted a video on there where somebody, I think they had like a beat machine and maybe some Euro rack and some other stuff, but they had front and center, dead on top of everything, the blooper pedal. And they were creating this ill bass line and drum thing that like I was like, this is brilliant.
That makes me so happy.
And so that's the kind of stuff when we talked about you coming on the show, one of the things I kind of really wanted to be able to, you know, approach is just you all seem to make pedals that are almost left field from what everybody else is doing. So when you say, you know, it's a pleasant surprise that last year your company really like soared past whatever you thought it would do. I don't know that I'm surprised, because your approach to what you're making with like, and especially with blooper and mood dropping in this time frame, and then later bringing the preamp and these things. These are and even going back to what is it? Warped vinyl, like the warped vinyl. These kind of things are kind of left field a little bit. Like, okay, warped vinyl is kind of like a chorus and so forth and so on, right? But still, it has some ideas in it that's just a particular approach. And I wanted to kind of ask you about, is that purpose? Is that like done in purpose, or is it just kind of like you allow things to evolve? Because I feel like there's like almost like a degree of art to the way you put together these things. And
that's a really good question. I think a lot of it is, you know, just kind of the music that we're interested in, you know, and you know, just even the context you were just describing. Like, I want to listen to that right now. It sounds so cool. But I think for me, it's just all about what's evocative, you know? And to me right now, you know, it's even though I play in a rock band, it's not although I try to make it a lot weirder than but it isn't just like straight up rock music, you know, that's really making me feel feelings, you know. It's different views. I feel like I'm not really explaining myself right.
No, I get it. It's basically you're into a wider swath of music. Kind of want to touch things that are a little bit unique. And
like I'm like, if we were gonna make, you know, just like a classic rock distortion thing, I'm not putting that down at all, or, you know, like overdrive, you know, a tube screamer thing. It's just, well, you know, for one, there's plenty of that stuff out there already, but it's just not, I don't know. It's just not gonna, doesn't excite me.
For me, like I came through like as far as guitar pedals are concerned, it's like, man, you start listening to everything from like, you know, the psychedelic rock era of, you know, Pink Floyd and, you know, even the Beatles and all that stuff. But then as you get, you know, later on in life and start seeing things like Man or Astro Man and like more spacey type sounds and that kind of stuff, it's like there's such a wide variety, you know, of sounds in pedal form. And there's still so much more to go, because now you start seeing this newer generation of, you know, the boutique digital guys, right? So like for a while it was boutique, kind of out of the garage, all analog stuff, you know, where it was either recreations of classic circuits or tweaks on those classic circuits, that sort of thing. But now you're starting to see, you know, these processor chips are becoming affordable and you know, low power enough or low energy consumption enough, but high enough CPU power to where you can do really cool things. And you're starting to see, three people cobble together something that before you would have had an entire corporation would have had to work on.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yep.
Something else I wanted to touch on too. I see that there's, you have a list of, and this is not odd. I mean, there's places, lots of manufacturers have, discontinued items.
Yeah.
Right. And I see pedals. What's sort of your thought process about when you say, all right, enough with that? Like, for instance, I see warp vinyl here, but you also have a newer warp vinyl and then different colors as well. But there's other ones here. I'm interested to know, at what point do you kind of just look at this particular pedal and say, all right, that's enough of that. We're not doing that one anymore. We're moving on.
It's so funny because after we've discontinued some of these that we had such a hard time selling a few years ago, now they're just, the used ones are so much more than what we used to sell them for.
Yeah.
And part of it, I think, is like, collecting. I think part of it is that a lot of more people are familiar with the brand now, so there's more interest. But when I look at all these pedals that have been discontinued, there's a reason for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But most of them is that there was something about them that just bugged me that I didn't like anymore, and I didn't want to make it many more of them. It's basically like, and that's weird. I should, and I think some of these, even looking at them, like there'll be like a new version that comes out at some point. But like right now, it's like we're just so behind on making stuff that there was some that weren't selling very well that we just decided, well, let's stop, making that for now.
Yeah. Let's see. I want to see if you can hear this. This is the video I was talking about.
Yeah, I definitely haven't seen this.
Can you hear it?
Nope, not yet. I can actually make it happen on my end if you want. If you want to send me the link in the private
I'll
chat.
send it to you because I gotta go.
I've got the fantastic routing situation going on over here where I can make magic happen.
You just rerouted the whole thing this morning.
Every morning.
Yeah, but it's so cool. So I'll send you the link. I'll actually put it in the chat for other people to check it out too. But then I'll put it in the private chat so you could check it out because I want you all to hear. It's like, and blooper is dead center in the middle of every damn thing here.
Where are you guys all from?
I'm originally from Chicago, based in LA.
Okay, so you're in LA right now.
Yeah,
got it.
I'm in the first state, Delaware.
The first state.
Hey, we are the first state. We can claim one good thing. That's what we're doing.
What about you, Bryce? Or he might be frozen.
Actually, you're right. Bryce is frozen.
Bryce isn't all that far from Corry. He's out in the high desert.
Got it.
He's out in the high desert. But yeah. I'm about 30 minutes south of Philly. So okay, so give me a second. Let me see if I can route this over because it's good and loud in my headphones. And let me load up my audio interface here.
Having such a good laugh at Bryce sitting there like that.
I was like, well, he's
the looks of the group right now. So
he really is.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, so if I do this might work. We're gonna find out. Here, let's see. If I bring this over, I'm gonna try to make it not feedback, but it might, which would be fun. Can you hear it?
Yep.
You can add the screen. All right, now let me cut this down So
Yeah, that was fresh. I'm gonna remove Bryce because I can't take him staring at us that way.
all right.
So yeah, listen, Joel, I'll say this, and we're a little over an hour, but and we also started a little late. But
My fault.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I love the trajectory you're on, and you make really dope pedals. And we have people on here that we want to be able to sing their praises because we are genuine gearheads.
We actually, just so you know, like Corry and myself and a few other close friends, we've been talking behind your back for years. For years. Like I can remember back when
No, we are not going to end this stream. We are not going to end this stream. Joel. So, I mean, we've spent the last hour and 15 minutes together. I feel the warmth. I feel the love. So I got to ask you, what's new? I mean, I feel like
that's a good question.
we have that relationship. We do. You can talk to me. What's coming? What's coming?
Well, we got something really fun we're working on right now. Actually, it's another knobs thing. This top secret, but you guys have just charmed me so much. But right now it's like it's so hard to make stuff right now, and like there's processor shortages everywhere.
Yeah,
there was this
the AKM
fire that has been a problem. So it's one of those situations right now where it's like we have one thing that we're working on that we're really excited about. I just don't know when it's going to come out because we're not quite finished with it. I think you three will like it, and maybe I can come back on the show when it's gonna kind of close to launch, and we can talk about
an invitation. Definitely.
By then our goal is to get upright hardline internet.
Yes. Yes. I was already thinking about that. No, you're right. Yes, for
I've
sure.
only been telling you that for like 3 years now.
I'm the weak link here. I already know.
Well, even if that's the case, I definitely felt really good talking to you guys, and even with some of the technical difficulties, I think I was able to understand everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to watch the show from now on, because I'm a fan now, and I didn't know about this. I didn't know about the show, so I'm excited to stay in touch and watch you guys.
Yeah, and Bryce, Corry, and myself, we all have kind of independent channels where we all have independent other shows, like like interview shows and beat making tip things and nerding out over synth gear, and Corry talking about how he has a Moog 1 and all that kind of stuff.
They can't talk about how he has every single thing else.
wait, Corry has a Moog 1? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. He's like, what? The news.
But if you're ever bored in the lab, just like kind of working on something, there's plenty of background noise to throw on.
Great.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, thanks for coming on, you guys. This has been a really good time.
Yeah.
And,
thanks for talking with us, Joel.
Yeah, appreciate you taking the time out. And when we've got new stuff coming up, you're always welcome to come on the show and share it with us. Come on, bring knobs, and let's chop it up, man.
Yeah, great, cool.
So, we'll have to get Maris pedals on too. I want to talk to them about that Mercury 7.
Yeah, we should get Maris on. Yeah,
they're awesome. Great people, great company.
So yeah, this has been Beat People Podcast episode 80.
880.
880. There it is. So at this point, we want to make sure that y'all share, like, subscribe, and we'll be back at you with something fresh and new soon. Peace.